maybe you all have to go up and follow the music and make also some wood carving like it's going on there. So come on, it's good for your brains. We have been sitting all too long. So you can hear the rhythm and you can carve in the woods. He is doing it there, but we can do it here. So, and we're going up, and maybe you're going down. And fast, and slowly, slowly, and fast. And also the other hand, or and maybe your feet. Well, thank you. I'm going to tell you about Onder de Tour, 32 remarkable stories of 32 communities, and it's a project of Leeuwarden-Fryslan's Cultural City of 2018. And it started January the 1st and it's running until the end of the year. Onder de Tour means under the tower, and it's about churches. Because a church is or was the center of a village, and it's full of stories. Well, this is me. I'm a dancer and a dance maker and a dance teacher, but I'm also a community art maker. We call it in Friesland manuscripts maker, and I'm also a teacher at primary schools. And I'm involved in Onder de Tour by the project of the wood carving. I was the artistic leader of it, and I'm also cooperating in other projects as leader of the dance camp, and it's called Art Camp International. In this presentation, I'm going to tell you about the process of Onder de Tour. I'm going to tell you about 5 pilots where every project has to comply with, and I'm going to tell you about 4 projects. So, Friesland, these are the Netherlands, and on top you see the green one with the islands, that's Friesland. There are 700,000 people, and in the middle there's Leeuwarden. There are more than 750 churches. So if you're going to cycle in the Friesland, everywhere you see churches. It's everywhere in the landscape. So the founders of Onder de Tour were looking for a project for 2018, and they thought this is something what's everywhere in the villages and is everywhere in the landscape. So it's something of the people themselves. When you're going to the church, it's to celebrate or to mourn. There are a lot of stories, there's cultural heritage. So they do a pilot, and afterwards they did an open call because it was a great success. And they did an open call, and every open call had to comply with 5 pillars. The first pillar is that you have to have a church. Well, I told you already why there should be a church in it, and it's the stories. Then the second are the stories. It could be a quite remarkable story, or a myth, or anecdote. It could be a small story or a big story, but the story has to be strong, so that the project can rely on it. Is that a good word? Yeah. Okay. The third thing is the community of the village, but also the communities of amateur clubs, because all the projects are built from below. So the community has to be involved, and because the church stories are already of the village, most of the times the communities are already inside the story. And the communities, the amateur clubs could be of every discipline. So it could be dance or music. So in my project there was the Club. It's a club of boats, and they were involved in our project. There has to be an artist, that's the fourth pillar, and the artist is going to bring the story from a concrete level to an abstract level. It's making it to an artistic level, and it's going to make connections between the different clubs and between the people in the village. Then the fifth pillar, because the four first pillars, then you can have already a beautiful project. But under the tour said we want a fifth pillar, because we don't want the people of the village going inside, we want them to go outside, to look further than their own village and go look outside to Europe, to find a connection. Well, sometimes it was already in the story, because there were some stories about the Spanish War. We had it with Spain in 1800, so there is a connection with Spain. But there was also some projects in harbors, and the harbor has already a connection with places overseas. In the projects there are also some exchanges, so between another country, or sometimes a choir is coming to the project in the Netherlands, in Friesland. So we have a church, a story, we have the community, we have the artist, and we have Europe. And then we, the founders of Under the Tour, did an open call, and there were more than 87 persons, project villages, who applied to it. And Under the Tour, there are only 5 persons, were coaching all of these projects to get them better, because they thought every project was wonderful already. So sometimes there was a project who didn't have an artist, and then Under the Tour was looking for an artist. And sometimes there was an artist and there was a story, but it wasn't a church. And then they were looking for a church. After this coaching, there was a selection. And the selection was, first of all, if the story is good enough, and second of all, if the project could stand on its own, because the 5 people of Under the Tour can't lead all these projects. They have all to do it themselves. So that was a second selection. And there was also, they looked at spreading in the province, so where every project is. And they looked at the spreading in the time from January to December, and also spreading in discipline. But there was a lot of theater in it. Then there was one fund very interested in this project. It's the Prince Bernhard Fund, and they usually give a lot of money on amateur clubs. And they heard of Under the Tour, and they thought, with this project we can reach a lot of amateur clubs. So they give the money, what they normally give in 1 year to all the projects, they give all the money to Under the Tour. That's half a million. So every project could apply for 12,000 euros at the beginning, and then they could also write to other funds, of course, if they need more. After the selection, there were 31 projects of the community, and 1 project led by the professionals and also by the 5 professionals of Under the Tour. And these 31 projects, I'll tell you about 4 of these projects. This is my project, so if I'm talking too long, you have to say it. This is the man die het hout doen liet, that's Frisian, and it means the man who lets wood dance. It's a project that is based on architectonical. It's based on the woodwork in the church. Because when we were there for the first time, we were really wondered how beautiful it was. And afterwards we recognized in a book that it was one of the 150 beautifulest churches in Holland. We didn't know that. And a lot of people in the village didn't know it either. And or they didn't know that it was in a church, or they did know it, but they didn't know that it was an example of very beautiful woodcraft. So we would like to give a performance about that people see again how beautiful the woodwork is. So we also, and you saw it already in the beginning, we would like to have music made from wood crafting. So we were going to a woodcrafter, and this is our first woodcrafter we met, and we asked him if you can make some sounds, and afterwards he said, you can try it yourself also. Well, you have to look at our faces, what's going on, because it totally shocked us what it was doing to us when we were woodcrafting, and it totally changed our idea of giving only performance. Okay, I don't see the...
Dat in alle rust natuurlijk ga je het heel nauwkeurig even uitmeten, maar zo.
Mooi. Goed gedaan. Nog op de team te kijken.
Kijken, goed, ja. God, er zijn zo'n mensen die de foto's willen.
Nou, je kunt de volgende keer in de kerk wezen.
Oh.
It was just such a small gap we made. And we were totally in shock because it's wonderful to do some woodworking. Oh, sorry. And afterwards we decided to also let people experience themselves what it is to woodwork, and that they can see what is possible with wood. So we have also a festival next to the performance. I'll let you show you some pictures of our show, our performance. We started outside with the storytelling about the man who led the wood dance. Actually, we would do it with the boats of the Wiedwette Club, but it was freezing so much that it wasn't possible. So then we did it just outside. Then we have the performance in the church. There was the man choir, and there was, you see the reverend, she's also the real reverend of the church, and she was playing in our performance. There were some people who were playing who just liked to play, and there were also people who were attending the theater school, and it was the same with the dancers. So there are some semi-professionals, and there are also some people who just like to dance. So the eldest one is 76. But I think that everybody can dance, so... Well, I told you. So then there are some pictures of the festivals. And young and old people were there, and there were also rich and people with no money. So we were glad with that there were a lot of different people. Our project was a great success. We have 150 volunteers in it, but without all the people who came to the festival and to the performance, it was also a success, because a lot of people experienced what it was to use to work on woodwork, and they see the handcraft, the woodcrafting in the church, and that was our goal, of course. But with the performance, we have 10 performance sold out, so that's 600 people, and on the festival there were 2 days, there were 1,200 people. And about the legacy of the project, I think the village is doing it again in 2 years, the wood festival, because they were very, very proud of it. This is an example of a real small project. Do I have 5 minutes? How many? Oh, okay. This is a real small project, and it starts with a calm. And this calm was in the church, laying in the hall, and everybody who wants to go in the church and has been cycling and the hair is everywhere could comb his hair. And afterwards the figure is throwing the hair in the wind, and that was the starting of this story. And well, this is a visual arts project, and it's an exhibition from April until October. There's also a story with a horse on top of the church with a devil, so they made a connection with it. They made 5 statues of horsehair, the artist, and the 55 families of the village make 55 golden horses. Then I'll quit this one. This is a real big one and didn't have a tower, so Under the Tour found a tower for them. And then we have this one, the Holy Deer of Cambuur, and it's about an anecdote of the reverend. The reverend was in the church and there were some boys, and then one boy said, "Oh, are you a fan of Cambuur?" That's the professional soccer club of Leeuwarden. And the reverend said, "Huh? Why?" "Because you have the sign of Cambuur hanging there." But it's not the sign of Cambuur, it's the sign or the family crest of the Kamminga's, the founders of Leeuwarden. And then there's going to be a theater show about religion and soccer and what it has to do with each other. And Cambuur adopted this project, the professional soccer club. I had a film, but maybe you can see it in the app. So Under the Tour is a real great success. Everyone involved in it is very proud of it. There's a lot of legacy inside it because all the villages are developing itself and are very proud of themselves. They made a lot of connections between the village and outside of the village and outside of the Friesland and outside of the Netherlands. So we're very curious what is going to happen with all this experience. Here is the main part to all the 32 projects, onderdetour.nl. And thank you for listening. Maybe there are some questions.
Willy van Assen, do we have questions for her? Yeah, please.
I don't want to be monopolizing all the opportunities for questions, but I really want to know what your reaction was from the churches and what your relationship was with the churches, because it's not always easy to get this message across, you know, like dance inside the church or something of that kind. So can you tell us something about your relationship, and did you have any hurdles to overcome, anyone you had to really convince, and if so, how did you do so?
Well, I had a work group around me from the village, and there was the figure of the church was inside it, because he really liked the idea of showing everybody the woodwork and also getting so many people inside of the church. So that wasn't the problem.
In all villages it was like that?
I didn't hear it, so I don't think so. And if you see the film of the project of the Holy Deer of Cambuur, the reverend is also playing in that theater piece. So I think they're involved in all the pieces, and I think they're taking the chance to show the church to everyone. And maybe there are some projects who didn't, churches who didn't want to didn't want to do the project, but then they don't have a church, so they don't apply to the open call, I think.
Somebody else? Okay, Willy van Assen. Oh, one more? Okay.
More observation, because I think that this is a very good example of the other way out of involving communities in European Capital of Culture. We were discussing about experts who can empower people. This is another model, I think. So giving just people the chance to express themselves without that many resources, because 20,000 euros is not that high budget, I mean.
12,000.
12,000, so it's smaller than expected. So it's a very small budget, but you leave the opportunity and the floor to people to make something by themselves. They empower maybe also more, because in the end they are responsible for the entire process, and then so it's a nice challenge, I think.
Yeah. There were also projects who didn't want the 12,000 euros because they only would like to use 1,000 euros. So, because the whole village was involving.
It's a very good scale for community projects.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you are on mission from God. Thank you very much.